Ah! Wow, here's some news. President Donald Trump declared martial law today after getting his dick stuck in a tuba. Alright, so we're gonna talk about this. John, you sold your Some Good News show. Wow! Congratulations there, John. Who would have thought that a YouTube show hosted by the star of one of the most successful comedy series ever, featuring cameos by other actors from that comedy series, and also Brad Pitt, would have been so immediately successful, and would then be sold after a bidding war to a major network that at the exact same time went ahead and laid off a bunch of people. Like a lot of people, including many reporters, because I guess they couldn't afford them, because they were too busy buying a fake news show about optimism in a time where people are getting laid off.
We work with John Krasinski. I like the sound of that.
Do you, though? I mean, some of you certainly don't. Not anymore. Look, okay, look. Okay. I know there's a lot going on in the world right now, and I'm not going to ignore that in this video, which may or may not have been written before a lot of new stuff happened, because the news is very, very fast these days. But I just gotta congratulate John and his brave, astounding underdog story where a famous celebrity did a show about good news and then suddenly vanished after selling it, right as America descended into an even more dire and important time. And I'm sure that this new version will be developed and shot and then released long after the coronavirus and the election is over, unless something goes wrong, which it might. But that means we'll have one of two possible presidents. And either way, there will be a lot of problems still happening, and then there will be this show, just off to the side, trying to pacify everyone with cheerful videos of cops doing the electric slide to celebrate the president's new officer freedom bill that solves police brutality by giving them all shiny new electric scooters. Or maybe heartwarming videos of homeless grocery store clerks getting their lung surgery paid for by a bunch of school teachers selling their bone marrow. Or something like that, hitting you right in the feels as you watch the show in your cobbled bunker made from the dead dolphins that washed up against your now beachside property. Anyway, he did it, Wowee! Jeez. If only we had thought to have Brad Pitt do a weather report on our show. It's so simple when you step back and you look at the big picture. We just needed to get Brad Pitt on our show to see the kind of scrappy overnight success John's show had. Stupid Cody not having Brad Pitt do a fun weather report on his show. And also the space station.
See you later, SGN.
What just happened? SGN just transmitted from the International Space Station? I'm gonna need a second to catch my breath. We should do a check on the weather. Brad, how's it looking out there?
Looks, pretty good. Yeah.
Thanks, Brad.
Look, I'm not bitter. I am bitter, but not about this. Not only about this. I'm not only bitter about this. I mean, yeah, I threw some turds his way about how we've had a segment called Some Good News for ever now. But my last video was still sort of a good-natured ribbing and pointing out, his show is a placebo. But now, not so much. It's not just me going, "Hey, John, you stole our show," as a fun bit. The anger is less personal, less good-natured John, who I assume is watching this while furiously writing down your next big idea for a show about a disheveled man ranting about boars and peanuts and whatnot. I get it. I mean, sure, I'm a total snack, but I'm not Brad Pitt. You all want Brad Pitt? I can do that too, Hey, Brad, can we get a traffic report? Thanks, Brad. Great friend of the show. So, look, a lot of you buzzkills on Twitter might have called John's plan to take what appeared to be a selfless act of sharing good news and sell it to a major network and turn it into a commercial product some kind of cynical grift. You know, especially since John isn't actually going to be the host of this new show. Meaning that he is literally just selling the concept of a show that says good news aggregated from all the other websites that already did that. Meaning that he is basically just selling, nothing to rich old people who have no idea how the internet works. But John has recently come out and addressed that specific criticism and backlash. So it's all okay now.
Well, it's funny. It was one of those things where I was only planning on doing 8 of them during quarantine because, like I said, I have these other things that I'm going to be having to do very soon, like Jack Ryan and all this other stuff. But more than that, it was, just something that, writing, directing, and producing and all those things with a couple of my friends was so much. I knew it wouldn't be sustainable with my prior commitments. So I knew the 2 options always were going to be that I leave it off at 8 in my office, which I would love to keep doing the show from my office forever. It wasn't sustainable.
You see, Internet Mob, it's not that John cynically sold off his extremely unoriginal idea, created from aggregating other people's videos and research, and then took that money and ran. It's not that at all. Because he was never planning on doing it for very long. Because of all of his other shows and projects that pay him a lot. And everyone knows it's really hard to continue a show after getting a bigger budget and crew. I mean, that's how shows work, where it's like you and some people on your own, but the bigger and more resources they get, the harder they are to work on. So it's okay. And it was really just him and his friends throwing together this thing in the first place.
I said to my wife, I had this idea a few years ago to start a good news network, and she said you should do it right now.
So there you have it. Controversy over. John had this idea a few years ago. So I don't know, around like 2018 or 2017. When nobody else was doing the concept of some good news on any other website. And then he just threw it all together, just ran in his home office, set up a camera, called a few producers, put out a crew call on a temp agency that hires production employees for short-term work, hired those people to do video distribution and post-production, and something called GIF analytics, and then, just jizzed it out. Hey, quick shout out to our good pals over at Fifth Element Group for their expertise and trust relationships with leaders across sectors and geographies who help deliver creativity. Hope your subsidiary company is a real blast. And of course, special thanks to the SGN team of 26 people, plus 8 additional for your editorial team. Wowee! You sure have a lot of friends, John. Congrats on your f***ing grift. You get that money. You earned it, is what a shocking amount of people are saying. You're so darn cute there, John, who is, and I can't stress this enough, kind of a creative grifter. And I'm not just talking about some good news either. John also co-created Lip Sync Battle and has done interviews about the genius spark that birthed a show that, if you have any knowledge of drag culture, is just a thing that already existed for decades. You remember A Quiet Place? A movie he directed and has a writing credit for. Well, that was a movie based on a screenplay, written and sold back in 2017. Several years after a book called The Silence had already come out, which has the exact same premise as A Quiet Place, down to there being a little deaf girl who helps her family survive. And then, when they finally adapted The Silence, the book that came first, everyone accused it of copying John's movie instead of realizing what had happened. So that's an interesting pattern.
And if you were one of the ones that didn't think my intro could be better, that's because you were just too busy simply ripping me off. That's right, in Okanagan, Canada, at Radio Kepler anointed himself as my SGN co-anchor without consulting a lawyer. And he did a frustratingly good job.
Weird pattern, John. How all of your ideas are really derivative, and yet you get a lot of praise and money for being completely mediocre in your creative endeavors. Like aggregating other people's videos from the internet without any real context or deep reflection of the situation or causes of the situation. And calling himself a good news show during a very vulnerable time in the country. And as we pointed out in our previous episode about this, you used surface-level stories of little kids and puppies and people applauding healthcare workers without actually addressing important issues, without making any waves, pretending that as long as we keep sharing security videos of kids helping grandmas cross the street, everything's good. Hug it out. have a candy. That's John's mission, to be as inoffensive as humanly possible and ultimately do very little while protecting from criticism oppressive systems and people before making a butt-ton of money and then vanishing. Since the police riots started, the tear gas, the brutality, the fires, John has made only one tweet. Can you guess what it was? I'll give you a clue. It's a video. He tweeted a video montage. Can you guess, without looking, what the video montage is? Like, I'm not doing a bit here. This is something we discussed beforehand and guessed before looking, and we want you to see if you can guess too. Have you written down your guess? Because here it is.
Being haunted is prey. My people don't want no trouble. We've had enough struggle.
Oh yeah! Do it to me, montage of cops-hugging protesters! Way to use your platform, John. Oh wait, breaking news. I just learned he also blocked out his Instagram. Thanks, good news guy, you're the voice of a generation. It's just really funny that the good news guy who wanted to cheer people up during hard times completely f***ed off when things got worse. So, alright, I guess since this keeps happening, I'm gonna have to once again show this wiener John how to actually do a video of the positive news. Because while this is kind of the opposite of a good year, like the way opposite of that thing, there is still a way to show positivity that is both emotionally fulfilling and constructive. There's a non-grifter way to spread hope. For example, if you wanted to actually show positive videos coming out of these protests, you could do this. That's a crowd cheering for the Brooklyn bus driver who refused to drive arrested protesters to jail, who was later praised by the MTA's largest union for doing so, because f*** the cops. And it is genuinely heartwarming to see city workers show solidarity with the protesters. It is genuinely invigorating to see subway drivers honk their horns and raise their fists while trains pass these demonstrations, a thing that also happened. But it's not just the big cities. And in fact, one of the more amazing aspects of the Black Lives Matter movement is how many stories we're getting from often lone people holding protests in their own small towns. Many of these towns are in very red areas of the country, and while that's anecdotal, there's data that's backing it up as Black Lives Matter support has grown in just the last few weeks as much as it did the last few years before that. Now, you may not like Mitt Romney, and I certainly don't. But it is significant to see him marching at these protests. Now, some of that significance possibly has to do with institutions and figures adopting the language and cause of an activist movement in order to pacify it, but maybe that's something for later on in another video. But for now, it's good, I guess, right? It's significant. It's more than significant to see the demonstrations happening all over the world. Here's one in Germany, one in Australia, in South Korea, in Scotland, in Spain, London, Brazil, Sweden, Kenya, Japan, Italy, Poland. It's almost every continent, maybe all of them. I don't know what these penguins are doing. Do you? Can you proclaim to understand the ways of the majestic flappy tuxedo birdfish? I don't think so. And here's the wild part. These protests, they appear to be working. In San Francisco, police have announced that they will no longer respond to non-criminal calls about the homeless population or minor disputes. Other qualified people will do that. In New Jersey, police are partnering with mental health experts to properly respond to calls involving suicide or mental illnesses. Cities are at least trying to address the use of tear gas and rubber bullets. New York PD will no longer harass street vendors. They will no longer have plainclothes units, many of which were involved in some of New York's worst police shooting incidents. Cities across the country are announcing some level of police reform, from banning chokeholds, which have been banned in other places and still used, but that to straight up defunding efforts. School districts everywhere are cutting ties with the local police, which is huge. We shouldn't have f***ing cops in our schools. Police are resigning. They're defunding themselves because they're actually seeing justice for their actions. Is it enough? No. It's super not enough. As of writing this episode, of the cops who broke into Breonna Taylor's home and shot her 8 times, only one of them is facing punishment by getting fired for breaking into the wrong person's house and then shooting one of those people dead. So there's still work to be done. But it's okay to feel encouraged by what has already been accomplished. Even if we don't get everything we want, the entire conversation has been reframed as defunding the police versus reforming the police, as opposed to the previous conversation about not doing anything about it at all. And while again, that's not enough and something we'll no doubt expand upon in later videos, but it's way more than what we've ever seen before. NASCAR banning Confederate flags is the bare minimum and should have happened decades ago, but it did happen. The seal has been broken. The slog debate about Confederate statues and flags has been pushed aside as the people have taken the matter into their own hands. You want to see some feel-good video news? It's not enough. I can't stop stressing that. But it's a positive start and opens up the realization that, I don't know, maybe there is still a lot of work to do just when it comes to monuments, let alone the system built on genocide and racism and oppression that those monuments represent. Like, holy shit, Mount Rushmore sucks, you guys. It was carved on a mountain that was granted to Native Americans in a treaty that the federal government almost immediately broke when they learned about gold in the area. It sucks. It fucking sucks. Also, it is hideous from a distance. Someone should, pull it down with their trucks. All right, maybe that wouldn't work because it's a mountain, but you get me. And this is the bare minimum we're talking about. And not enough. But we're also seeing positive results in real time. Like when the police responded to a non-protest related shooting in New Orleans, they decided to detain a woman that they considered a witness. If you're curious about the legality of this, a special need detention of a witness is only constitutional if the crime is severe and the police are certain that the witness can provide them with information. In this case, it was a woman running away from gunfire. And as the crowd realized that this was a lot of horse shit, they began to chant and hold up the police car until...
I told you, I see your face. That's what the... He wasn't going nowhere, sis. He wasn't going nowhere. We are walking with her.
It took an entire crowd of protesters to point out that maybe, perhaps, handcuffing and detaining a young woman who just ran for her life was maybe, kinda, probably not constitutional. And also, wrong. So while that shouldn't take an entire protest to accomplish, it's still really powerful to watch. You know, more than a bunch of cops doing the f***ing Macarena with civilians, they are actively planning to tear gas later. Probably fantasizing about it as they're doing the dance. So if a celebrity wants to use their platform to spread positive and encouraging vibes surrounding this movement, share the videos of protesters, share the police violence. Please, help the people.
I take responsibility.
I take responsibility.
I take responsibility.
Or you could just do that instead, I guess. Because wow, that Imagine video sure was a hit. So do it again, but worse. Problem solved. Or maybe, depending on how you look at it, problem not solved. And I don't know, maybe this moment right now isn't about them and they don't need to stick their faces in this, at least not in the context of meaningless gestures that don't help anything. This amazing, this not amazing, and actually pretty angering because of this. Does that make sense? Or in much better words.
So now all of a sudden this nigga expects me to step in front of the streets and talk over the work these people are doing as a celebrity? Answer me. Do you want to see a celebrity right now? Do we give a fuck what Ja Rule thinks? Does it matter about celebrity? No. This is the streets talking for themselves. They don't need me right now.
So, if John actually gave a shit about spreading positivity during these terrible times, he wouldn't have just sold off his show before tweeting a single video about huggy cops. Instead, he might use that new pile of money he's sitting on and perhaps gotten involved in boosting the people who matter. And since I keep reminding you that there's still tons of work to be done, here are some of the places that folks like John, or heck, anyone watching this video, can give to. We can put all these links in the description below. There's, of course, the George Floyd and Breonna Taylor Memorial and Justice Funds. Then there are the lesser-known memorial funds for folks like Ahmaud Arbery, James Scurlock, Tony McDade, and David McCaddy. Bail funds could use some money, such as the Bail Project, National Bailout, and the National Bail Fund Network. And hey, how about those police reform groups? Nothing like the trusty ACLU or perhaps the Black Lives Matter Global Network. There's the Communities Justice Action Fund, and while I'm focusing on national groups, you can find local equivalents in your states. For example, there's the No Cop Academy, an effort in Chicago to stop the construction of a $95 million police academy and use the money for community projects instead. Also, there's the National Police Accountability Project and Communities United Against Police Brutality. All good options. If you want to focus on prison reform, you can look into the Equal Justice Initiative or No New Jails for all your prison needs. Oh neat, there are groups that also focus on black LGBTQ rights, like the Transgender Law Center, the Third Wave Fund, the Homeless Black Trans Woman Fund, the Black Trans Advocacy Coalition, and the Okra Project. And oh heck, there's so many more! There's a National Black Disability Coalition, the BET and United Way COVID Relief Fund, or maybe those Unicorn Riot folk could use some cash. Maybe you're broke. I mean, not John, but other people who want to support the cause can look up and contact your representatives. There are websites for finding who your House representative is, your senator, your governor, or your mayor. Look up your local police department and call them with a piece of your mind. Or join the darn protests if you're able to. If there isn't a protest around your area, then start one. Just remember to be safe and wear a mask and have sanitizer, and actually, here's a really good guide on protest safety. You can also just talk to people, your family, your community, people who might need to be convinced. Show them videos of what the cops have been doing to these protesters. Explain to them exactly what it means to defund the police. And of course, just listen a lot, too, right? Listen to the people out there on the streets, the young black men and women expressing their fears and hopes. And if you happen to have a platform on social media or TV or movies, John, maybe signal boost them. Maybe change. Think about how you are contributing to the problem. Like, I don't know, if you regularly play a CIA agent on TV and openly shill for the CIA like this.
The coolest thing ever for me, I mean, I totally nerded out when we got to the CIA. I think I probably embarrassed myself, and I'm sure they have it on tape. So I owe them everything. I really do. The CIA is something that we should all not only cherish, but be saying thank you every single day.
Hey, John, maybe just take a second and Google everything the CIA does and other agencies when it comes to race and civil rights. I'm sure there's a lot to discover there, John. Maybe don't play multiple roles that boil down to CIA propaganda. Like, it's really weird, and his defense was that he always wanted to do a role where he was in the military, a thing he actually had already done years ago. So he's just like this weird pro-CIA grifter who landed one charming role very early that somehow gave him way more goodwill than he deserves. And I'm not trying to cancel John, but he kind of represents a lot of problems in this country, and specifically the entertainment industry. He's a really rich guy who used his intense amount of privilege and fame to pop into the internet real quick and make a handful of lazy videos with all his rich friends and used it to make a bunch of money before vanishing. Meanwhile, the people struggling to make a living on the internet have all lost jobs because of sites like Facebook making casual changes in their algorithms and flat out lying for the interest of profit. It's gross and sad, and I'm disappointed. I'm disappointed to see someone who started off so innocent and quiet and unassuming get warped by power and the money disease. and then grow a beard and work a ridiculous grift birthed from that white guy assumption that everything they do is pure genius. If only there was some kind of perfect analogy for your transformation from like a show you were on, John. How perfect would that be? So, he should be ashamed of himself and take the money he made from his grift and donate all of it. Like, regardless of how you view his show, it seems like the logical thing, right? That a good news show like that would do. I sold my thing, and as a millionaire, I don't need more of this. So I'm going to donate my good news money to good things. Literally any charity. Make one up. Well, don't make one up. But literally any real charity. I mean, not like Hugs for Cops Foundation, but literally any other charity or foundation that I mentioned earlier. It's the easiest decision to make ever. People wouldn't even care if you sold the show. If you were like, yeah, I sold the show, then I gave the money to charity. It is unbelievable how you messed that up. Do it now. John, you're watching this video. I know you are. So announce you're donating all of that money to a charity, John. Tweet it now. Here are some hashtag options for you. And now, John can reflect on how he's actually making things worse with the roles he chooses. And not just him. There are a lot of wealthy people who need to use this moment to take a long look at themselves. Like, hey, it's cool. Hey, cast of Brooklyn Nine-Nine, you donated to the Black Lives Matter movement. Way to help show about how cops are really lovable, woke goofballs, you know? See, like, Paramount gets it. They just canceled the show Cops because, yeah. So everybody support Paramount and their wonderful shows and movies like A Quiet Place and Jack Ryan. Okay, I jumped the gun there. That's on me. So anywho, Cops. And John Krasinski, my nemesis, is a grifter. I'm sorry, but he is. And Brad Pitt is fine? Is he fine? I'm not looking him up. I don't want to ruin Brad Pitt for me. I'm sure he's like a real monster. Brad, any thoughts? You're so right. Thanks for being on. Do you have anything to plug? Cool. I'll keep an eye out for that. Hey, how's your family doing? Wow. Okay, man. Pretty f***ed up response there. Wow, cancel Brad. Brad Wow, I'm looking at you now, not the words that I was reading. Thanks for watching the video. It's been lovely, right? I don't know. Like and subscribe, do the YouTube stuff. It's not your first day on YouTube. You know the deal. And we've got a Patreon and another podcast. It's called Even More News. And you can check all of it out in the description with the links of the places that we mentioned in the video that you just watched. Like and subscribe. Or don't. Like, what are we doing? You know? Like, what is this?